Stand in the ruins of Persepolis today, and you will feel it immediately. The weight of it. Columns 40 feet high, carved reliefs of kings and warriors and tribute bearers stretching in perfect procession across stone staircases. The skeleton of a palace so vast that ancient visitors described it as the most magnificent city on earth. The Persians called it the throne of Jamshid. The Greeks called it Persepolis, the city of the Persians. Alexander the Great called it a prize worth burning to the ground. But here is the question almost no one stops to ask. If this civilization was so proudly, so unmistakably Persian, if poets wrote in Persian, kings bled for Persia, and the entire ancient world trembled at the name of Persia, then why does the country call itself Iran? And why did it change? Using advanced AI techniques, we have transformed centuries-old paintings, imperial portraits, and faded engravings of Persepolis and its people into living, breathing scenes. You are not just going to learn why the name changed, you are going to witness the entire sweep of a civilization that refused, time and again, to be erased. This is the story of Persia becoming Iran, and it is far stranger and far more deliberate than you think. The year is 550 BC. A man named Cyrus leads a relatively obscure tribe from the highlands of southern Iran. The Persians are not yet an empire. They are one of dozens of peoples scratching out an existence on the Iranian plateau beneath the thumb of the Median Empire that controls the region. Then Cyrus defeats his Median overlords in open battle, absorbs his kingdom, and something extraordinary is set in motion. Within 2 decades, Cyrus the Great builds the largest empire the world has ever seen. He sweeps into Babylon in 539 BC without a battle, welcomed as a liberator. He issues the Cyrus Cylinder, often called the world's first charter of human rights, declaring that the peoples of his empire may keep their gods, their customs, their languages. Jews exiled in Babylon are allowed to return to Jerusalem. Cyrus funds the rebuilding of their temple. This is not the behavior of a conqueror. This is statecraft of a different order entirely. The empire he founds, the Achaemenid Empire, stretches from Egypt to the borders of India. 50 million people, perhaps 40% of the world's entire population at the time, live under Persian rule. It is the blueprint for empire that every civilization after it will try to copy. Then comes Darius the Great. It is 522 BC. Darius does not merely rule the empire, he engineers it. He builds the Royal Road, a 2,500-mile highway from Susa to Sardis, with fresh horses stationed at regular intervals so a message can travel its entire length in just 9 days. He standardizes weights and measures. He creates a postal system that would not be significantly improved for 2,000 years. And he builds Persepolis. If you could stand at Persepolis at the height of the Achaemenid Empire, you would witness something that makes the word magnificent seem inadequate. Delegations from every corner of the empire arriving for the New Year festival. Nubians carrying elephant tusks, Babylonians leading humped bulls, Lydians presenting gold vessels, Indians bringing donkeys loaded with precious cloth. Carved forever into the stairways of the Apadana Palace, every delegation depicted in their own clothing, their own identity intact. Persia does not erase the peoples it conquers, it curates them. But empires, however magnificent, are not immortal. The Persians clash twice with the Greeks, and those battles become the stories the Western world never stops retelling. Marathon, Thermopylae, Salamis. From the Greek perspective, they are tales of heroic resistance against an Eastern tyrant. From the Persian perspective, they are costly border skirmishes with a stubborn people on the far western edge of an enormous empire.
Both of those things are true. Neither is the whole story. The whole story arrives in 334 BC. Alexander of Macedon crosses into Persian territory with 47,000 soldiers and a mission to burn the Persian world to the ground. He is 22 years old. Within 6 years, Alexander defeats the Persian king Darius III at 3 separate battles, marches through Egypt, Mesopotamia, and Central Asia, and reaches the steppes of Persepolis. The year is 330 BC. He orders the palace complex set alight. Whether it is an act of deliberate revenge for the Persian burning of Athens, or a drunken mistake at a party, or a calculated political statement, historians still argue. What is not debated is what happens next. Persepolis burns for days. The Achaemenid Empire is over. But here is what is remarkable. The Persians do not disappear. They do not dissolve into the Greek world that Alexander imposes on top of them. They survive beneath it, preserving their language, their customs, their sense of themselves. When Alexander's empire fragments after his death, Persian culture re-emerges like something that was merely submerged, not drowned. The Parthians take control in 247 BC. They speak Persian. They use Persian customs. Then the Sassanid dynasty rises in 224 AD, and for over 4 centuries, Persia is once again a great power, challenging Rome and then Byzantium across the Middle East in wars that exhaust both empires.
For 1,000 years after Alexander burns Persepolis, Persia endures, wounded, transformed, but unbroken. Then comes 637 AD, and everything changes again. The Arab armies that pour out of the Arabian Peninsula under the banner of Islam are fueled by a religious certainty that makes them almost unstoppable. The Sassanid Empire, exhausted from decades of war with Byzantium, faces them at the Battle of Al-Qadisiyah. The Persians field war elephants, armored cavalry, professional soldiers who have been fighting their entire lives. The Arab forces are largely untrained tribesmen fighting with an extraordinary sense of purpose. The Persians lose. It takes another 15 years of intermittent fighting, but by 651 AD, the last Sassanid king is murdered by his own subjects, and Persia falls to the Islamic Caliphate. The old Zoroastrian religion, which the Persians had practiced for more than a millennium, retreats. Most Persians convert to Islam over the following generations. But here is what the Arab conquerors discover. Persia cannot simply be absorbed. The Persians are too literate, too sophisticated, too deeply cultured to dissolve into Arabic civilization. Instead, something remarkable happens. Persian culture quietly conquers its conquerors. When the Abbasid Caliphate rises and moves its capital to Baghdad in 762 AD, the architects who design the city are Persian. The administrators who run the empire are Persian. The poets who define the golden age of Islamic civilization write in the Persian language: Rumi, Ferdowsi, Omar Khayyam. The mathematicians, the astronomers, the philosophers who make the Islamic Golden Age possible, many of them are Persian, drawing on a tradition that stretches back centuries. The great epic poem, the Shahnameh, the Book of Kings, is written by the poet Ferdowsi around the year 1000 AD. 60,000 verses of Persian mythology and history, beginning with the creation of the world and ending with the Arab conquest. Ferdowsi's purpose is explicit and deeply personal. He is saving the Persian language from dissolution. He writes in a period where Persian is under enormous pressure from Arabic, and his poem becomes the bedrock on which modern Persian identity is built.
It is still read today. It is perhaps the single most important act of cultural preservation in the history of this civilization.
Then the Mongols arrive, 1258 AD. Hulagu Khan, grandson of Genghis Khan, destroys Baghdad so completely that the rivers reportedly ran black with the ink of books thrown into the Tigris. The Abbasid Caliphate, which has ruled the Islamic world for 5 centuries, is finished in a matter of days. Hundreds of thousands die. Libraries accumulated over generations are destroyed. The irrigation systems that have sustained Mesopotamian agriculture since the time of the Babylonians are demolished and never repaired. It is one of the great catastrophes of the medieval world. But Persia survives even this. The Mongol Ilkhanate converts to Islam. Persian administrators run their empire. Persian language and culture absorb the Mongol conquerors, just as they had absorbed the Arab ones centuries before. By the 15th century, a new Persian-inflected court in Samarkand is producing some of the greatest miniature painting, architecture, and poetry of the medieval Islamic world. Persia bends, Persia does not break. The next defining moment comes in 1501. A teenage boy named Ismail, barely 14 years old, rides into Tabriz with his warriors and declares himself Shah of Iran. Shah Ismail I founds the Safavid dynasty, and he makes one decision that will define Iranian identity to the present day. He declares Twelver Shia Islam the official state religion of Persia. This is not a minor theological adjustment. In a world where the vast majority of Muslims are Sunni, this is an act of radical differentiation. It sets Persia apart from the Ottoman Empire to the west and the Mughal Empire to the east. It creates a specifically Persian Islamic identity, one that fuses the pre-Islamic Persian sense of civilization and distinctness with a particular strain of Islam that emphasizes the sacred lineage of the Prophet's family. Persia, under the Safavids, becomes one of the great powers of the 16th and 17th centuries. Shah Abbas the Great rules from 1588 to 1629 and rebuilds Isfahan into one of the most magnificent cities on earth. The Imam Mosque, the Sheikh Lutfullah Mosque, the Great Bazaar, the Ali Kapu Palace overlooking a public square of breathtaking scale. If you stood in Isfahan in 1620, you would have been standing in the heart of a civilization that considered itself the cultural equal of any empire on earth. Because it was. But the Safavid dynasty collapses in the early 18th century. The Afghans invade. Power fractures. A series of short-lived dynasties struggle to hold the country together. Then comes the Qajar dynasty, ruling from 1796. And the Qajars face something the Persian world has never quite encountered in this form: European imperialism. The 19th century is the century of Persian humiliation. Britain and Russia divide the country into spheres of influence without asking the Persians. Russia takes territories in the Caucasus after wars in 1813 and 1828. Britain maneuvers to protect its route to India. Foreign merchants receive special legal exemptions, meaning they cannot be tried in Persian courts. The Persian economy is penetrated by foreign capital at every level. In 1872, Nasser al-Din Shah grants a British businessman named Julius de Ruyter a concession that gives him control of Persian roads, telegraph systems, mills, factories, and natural resources for 70 years in exchange for a small share of profits. Lord Curzon, one of the architects of British imperial policy, calls it the most complete surrender of the entire industrial resources of a kingdom into foreign hands that has ever been dreamed of. Even this concession is eventually cancelled after an eruption of public fury, but the pattern continues. And then, in 1908,
oil is discovered. By 1901, a British businessman named William Knox Darcy had already secured a concession to drill for oil across most of Persia. 7 years later, the gushers come in. The British government acquires a controlling stake in what becomes the Anglo-Persian Oil Company. Persian oil is fueling the British Navy by 1914. Persia has a resource the entire world now wants. Persians are not the ones controlling it. Persians are not the ones benefiting from it. The early 20th century brings constitutional revolution and chaos in equal measure. In 1906, Persian reformers forced the Qajar Shah to accept a constitution and parliament, one of the first constitutional revolutions in Asia. It is quickly undermined by Russian and British interference. The country descends into factional conflict, tribal revolt, and near disintegration. Into this chaos steps a soldier, Reza Khan.
In 1921, a Persian officer named Reza Khan leads a coup with his Cossack brigade and seizes power in Tehran. He is 44 years old, self-made, from humble origins, physically imposing, barely formally educated, but ferociously intelligent, with a vision for Persia that is going to transform everything. His model is Mustafa Kemal Ataturk, who is simultaneously dragging Turkey out of the ashes of the Ottoman Empire into a modern secular state. Reza Khan wants to do the same for Persia. He deposes the last Qajar Shah in 1925 and has himself crowned Reza Shah Pahlavi, founder of a new dynasty. The name Pahlavi is deliberate. It refers to the script used in ancient pre-Islamic Persia, the language of the Sassanids. He is announcing from the very beginning that his project is a revival of Persian civilization, the civilization that existed before the Arab conquest. He builds roads, railways, hospitals, and universities at a speed that stuns foreign observers. He outlaws the veil for women in public places. He forces men to abandon traditional clothing for Western-style suits and hats. He tears down the power of the clerics, reducing their influence over courts and education. He creates a modern standing army. He renegotiates with the Anglo-Persian Oil Company, demanding that Iran receive a greater share of profits from its own earth. His methods are often brutal. Tribal leaders who resist centralization are crushed. Political opponents are imprisoned and executed. Reza Shah does not govern by persuasion. He governs by force. But then comes March 1935, and the name. Reza Shah sends a diplomatic circular to foreign governments. He requests that the country stop being called Persia in international correspondence and begin using Iran instead, effective immediately. Why? The official explanation is straightforward. Within the country, the people have always called their homeland Iran, derived from the ancient word Ariana, meaning the land of the Aryans. Persia, the name the outside world has used for 25 centuries, comes from Pars or Fars, the southwestern province where the Achaemenid kings originally ruled. It was a regional name that foreigners applied to the entire country. It was never what the Iranians themselves called their homeland. Reza Shah is, in one sense, simply asking the world to use the same name the Iranians have always used for themselves. But there is considerably more to it than that. In the 1930s, the word Aryan carries enormous ideological weight. Reza Shah has been building diplomatic and economic ties with Nazi Germany. German engineers are building his railways. German advisors are working inside his government. The Nazi racial ideology that defines the Aryan people as a master race resonates with Reza Shah's vision of Iran as an ancient Aryan civilization that has been diminished and distorted by centuries of Arab and Mongol domination.
The name change is simultaneously genuine, a correction of a long-standing geographic mislabeling, and deeply political. It is a signal to Berlin. It is a declaration of ancient Aryan identity. It is a rejection of the Arab-Islamic framing of Persian history. It is the Shah saying to his own people and to the world, "We are not the descendants of Arab conquest. We are the heirs of Cyrus and Darius. We are Iran." The world accepts the change almost immediately. Embassies update their letterheads. Newspapers change their language. Within months, the country that the world had called Persia for 25 centuries is Iran in every international forum. The irony, of course, is profound and rather brutal. Iran's relationship with Nazi Germany proves catastrophic. When World War II begins and Reza Shah refuses to expel German agents operating from Iranian territory, the British and Soviets invade simultaneously in 1941. They occupy the country within days, barely encountering serious resistance, and force Reza Shah to abdicate in favor of his 22-year-old son, Mohammad Reza Shah Pahlavi. The man who changed the name to assert national sovereignty against foreign interference ends his life in exile in South Africa, placed there by the very foreign powers he spent his reign trying to defy. His son rules for 37 more years, navigating the Cold War, nationalizing the oil industry in 1951 under the bold nationalist Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh, only to see Mossadegh overthrown in a CIA and British-backed coup in 1953. The Shah grows more authoritarian. The gap between his westernized elite and the deeply religious population widens with every passing year. In 1979, the Islamic Revolution sweeps him from power. Ayatollah Khomeini returns from exile to cheering millions. The Islamic Republic of Iran is proclaimed. It is one of the most seismic political transformations of the 20th century. And through it all, through revolution and war and isolation, one thing does not change. The name holds.
Iran survives the Shah. Iran survives the revolution. Iran survives 8 years of brutal war with Iraq in the 1980s, a conflict that claims perhaps 500,000 lives. Iran survives decades of sanctions and diplomatic isolation. Iran endures. The name given in 1935 as an act of nationalist assertion, a rejection of the Arab framing, a controversial signal to a regime that would collapse in ruins within a decade, outlasts all of it. Because the name itself is ancient. The people of this country have called their homeland Iran since before the Arabs arrived, since before Alexander burned Persepolis, since before the first great empires rose across the Iranian plateau. Iran is not a rebranding, it is a return. It is a country insisting again and again across the centuries on its own terms, its own name, its own story. Iran has survived Macedonian conquest, Arab invasion, Mongol destruction, European imperialism, revolution, and war. Each time, something essential survives: the language, the poetry, the sense of being a civilization that has existed for 25 centuries and intends to exist for 25 more. That is what Ferdowsi was preserving when he wrote 60,000 verses of Persian mythology around the year 1000. That is what Reza Shah was asserting when he sent his circular to foreign governments in 1935. That is what the ruins of Persepolis are still saying to anyone willing to stand among them and listen. Persia was never just a country. It was and is an idea, and the world simply learned what to call it. Thanks for watching.
Creating videos like this takes an enormous amount of research and time, and this is honestly one of my favorite histories to piece together, a civilization that has been misunderstood or overlooked for too long. If you found this journey valuable, I would really appreciate it if you hit the like button and subscribed for more deep dives into the histories that shaped our world. And let me know in the comments, which story should we tell next? As always, we will see you in the past.